PGA Tour is in huge trouble, and this time there is no hiding it. Brian Rolapp allegedly refuses to answer Rory McIlroy, and 47 players are supposedly watching it all burn. That is the story flooding your feed. The reality is darker than the rumor. Just days ago in Scotland, McIlroy grabbed a microphone and torched his own bosses. National Opens, he warned, are about to lose the fabric of what they are. Total silence swallowed the entire room. His own tour never saw it coming. Rewind 3 weeks to Connecticut, Rolapp stood beside Tiger Woods and buried a century of tradition in a single press conference. Golf, as you know it, dies in 2028. 2 divisions take its place. Relegation now stalks every career on the planet. One question hung over that stage like smoke. Rory had already branded the plan glorified Corn Ferry Golf. Did the new CEO face him, or did he dodge? What actually happened will split your comment section in half. And the number 47 hides a twist nobody saw coming. Subscribe right now and turn on notifications because we expose what golf media buries. Let's go back to where this war truly began. The war truly began on a Tuesday at Shinnecock Hills during the build-up to the U.S. Open in June 2026. Rory McIlroy sat down for his pre-tournament press conference expecting the usual questions about course conditions and major preparation. Then, a reporter asked him about the PGA Tour's proposed 2-track future. Anyone who follows Rory knows he never hides behind media training, and this moment proved it once again. He looked at the proposed second tier of tournaments and delivered a verdict that landed like a slap across the face of headquarters. Those events, he suggested, risked becoming glorified Corn Ferry Tour events. Coming from anyone else, that line might have faded within a news cycle. Coming from the most influential player in the sport, days before the biggest structural announcement in tour history, it became a grenade rolling across the floor of the global home in Ponte Vedra Beach. The example he reached for made the wound even deeper. McIlroy pointed to the Canadian Open, a national championship with more than a century of history behind it, as exactly the kind of tournament that could get shoved down into the second division. Remember, this is a man who has lifted that trophy twice and spent years deliberately adding national opens to his schedule to protect their prestige. He was not throwing rocks from a distance. He was defending something he personally helped build. To understand why his words carried so much weight, you need to understand the man they were aimed at. Brian Rolapp is not a golf lifer. He spent 22 years inside the NFL, where he rose to chief media and business officer and helped turn Thursday Night Football into a commercial monster. The PGA Tour hired him as its first ever chief executive in June 2025, handing an outsider the keys to a sport drowning in questions about its identity. From day one, his mandate was modernization. Behind him stood the Future Competition Committee, chaired by Tiger Woods himself, tasked with redesigning professional golf from the ground up. Whatever emerged from that committee would carry the fingerprints of the greatest player of all time, which made criticism of the plan feel almost like sacrilege inside the building. Fast forward 1 week from Rory's grenade on June 23, 2026, at TPC River Highlands ahead of the Travelers Championship, Rolapp stepped in front of the cameras with Woods at his side and confirmed that both PGA Tour boards had approved the committee's recommendations. Starting in 2028, the single unified tour that fans have known for generations will split into 2 distinct series. The names remain working titles for now, but the architecture is locked in. At the top sits the PGA Tour Championship Series, an elite circuit of roughly 23 or 24 events that folds in the 4 majors, the Players' Championship, and either the Ryder Cup or the President's Cup, depending on the year. Below it sits the PGA Tour Challenger Series, the designated pathway upward, and the new home for everyone who fails to make the cut into golf's aristocracy. The details of the top tier read like something borrowed directly from Rolapp's NFL playbook. Every regular season championship series event will carry a purse of at least $20 million. Fields will average around 120 players, drawn from a pool of roughly 130, competing over 72 holes of stroke play with a cut to the low 65 in ties. Sponsor exemptions disappear entirely at this level. Monday qualifiers vanish too, along with alternate lists. The season will run from February through August, finishing with a revamped playoff structure expected to feature match play. Even the venues reflect a television-first philosophy, with the tour openly discussing major media markets such as Chicago, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Denver, Seattle, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. as future hosts. This is golf rebuilt for prime time, engineered by the man who mastered prime time in another sport. Underneath that gilded ceiling sits the Challenger Series, and this is where Rory's Korn Ferry insult really starts to sting. The second tier will feature a minimum of 20 events with purses of at least $4 million, staged at established venues that have traditionally hosted PGA Tour tournaments. Around 140 players will call it home. Monday qualifiers survive down here, sponsor invitations remain available, and eligibility for the major championships stays completely untouched for anyone competing at this level. On paper, it sounds respectable. In practice, it means a hard cast system with separate points lists for each series and a rule that forbids championship series players from dropping down to compete in challenger events. The two worlds will not mix during the season. Movement between them happens through pure meritocracy, and the mechanism is brutal. Roughly 90 players from the championship series retain their status each year based on the points standings. The top 20 performers from the Challenger Series earn promotion. Everyone else at the bottom of the elite tier faces relegation, a word that has never truly existed in American golf. Until now, a player who wins twice on the Challenger Series in a single season gets promoted immediately, no waiting required. For those stuck on the bubble, the tour is building a last-chance series of 4 to 6 fall events where a limited number of spots can still be earned or saved. Careers will now be decided in October pressure cookers that make the old Q school look gentle by comparison. So the stage was set for the moment this entire video is built around. Rolapp stood at the podium in Connecticut, the plan finally public, and reporters came armed with Rory's words. What would the new boss say about the Korn Ferry comparison? This is where the story gets genuinely fascinating, because the answer destroys the simple narrative. Rolapp revealed that he had already spoken with McIlroy privately earlier that very same day, before ever facing the media. Then he addressed the criticism directly on camera without dodging the question itself. The man accused of refusing to answer actually opened his response by confirming the conversation happened. His defense rested on one number, and here comes the twist we promised you. Rolapp explained that the PGA Tour currently operates 47 events serving roughly 230 players, and the new model going forward will still feature 47 events serving that same population. Nothing gets cut, according to him. The tour simply reorganizes itself into a cleaner, competitive structure that fans can actually follow and partners can properly value. That is the real 47. It was never about 47 players watching a feud from the locker room. The number refers to 47 tournaments whose futures now hang on which side of the divide they land. Every one of those events employs staff, feeds charities, anchors communities, and carries decades of history. Multiply the anxiety of one nervous player by an entire ecosystem, and you begin to grasp the true scale of what is at stake. Rolapp went further in dismantling the Korn Ferry comparison. He argued that Challenger Series events will take place at venues fans already recognize, will offer purses that dwarf anything on the developmental circuit, and will feature a subset of the very same players competing on tour today. In his telling, the comparison collapses on contact with the facts. Fair enough. Yet here is where the accusation in our title finds its oxygen, and why so many fans refuse to let it go. Rolapp answered the question about numbers with total confidence. The question about soul went largely unaddressed. McIlroy was never really arguing about purse sizes or venue quality. His deeper concern involves identity, meaning, and whether a 100-year-old national championship can survive being labeled second class regardless of how much money gets thrown at it. On that specific point, critics argue the CEO offered structure instead of substance, which to many ears sounds exactly like a refusal dressed in corporate language. For a brief moment, peace seemed to break out anyway. After the full details emerged, McIlroy released a statement calling the announcement a positive step for professional golf. He praised the renewed commitment to meritocracy and highlighted the collaboration between the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour aimed at elevating historic international tournaments and national opens. Given how loudly he had complained a week earlier, that statement read like a ceasefire, and headquarters exhaled. Anyone paying attention, however, noticed what his words carefully avoided. He endorsed the direction, he never endorsed the destination for the tournaments he loves. The ceasefire lasted about 3 weeks. In July, at the Genesis Scottish Open, McIlroy opened the tournament with a blistering 65 to share the lead, but his scorecard was not the headline. Standing before reporters at the Renaissance Club, he delivered the warning you heard at the top of this video. He told Woods, Rolapp, and the entire leadership structure to be careful, because national opens lose the fabric of what they are the moment they become closed-off tournaments restricted to a fixed group of players. A national open with locked doors, in his view, forfeits the right to the name. He also made a constructive case rather than simply complaining. The Scottish Open has gone from strength to strength since becoming co-sanctioned between the two tours in 2022, attracting elite fields, a premium sponsor in Genesis, and continuous upgrades to the venue. McIlroy openly wondered whether the Canadian Open deserves the same co-sanctioned treatment, positioning that model as proof these events should be expanded rather than demoted. Now look at the math that gives his warning teeth. The current schedule features more than 40 tournaments, while the top tier will offer only around 20 regular season slots once you subtract the majors and marquee events. Something has to give, and the shortfall is enormous. Tournaments like the Canadian Open and the Scottish Open could plausibly find themselves excluded from the Championship Series entirely. Falling into the Challenger Series would mean staging a national championship without the biggest stars in the field, since the rules explicitly bar elite players from dropping down. Picture a Canadian Open where no top-tier player is even allowed to enter. That is not a smaller version of the same event. That is a different event wearing the old one's clothes. While this battle plays out in press rooms, Rolapp keeps consolidating power. The same board meetings that approved the two-tier revolution also confirmed him as the tour's next commissioner, replacing Jay Monahan effective January 1st. His authority will be absolute precisely when the most consequential decisions get made. The full 2028 schedule, including the assignment of every tournament to its tier, arrives in the first quarter of 2027. The Challenger Series membership will be settled by the end of this calendar year, so players will spend all of 2027 knowing exactly which status they are fighting for. Every sponsor of a mid-tier event is currently doing quiet math about whether a challenger designation justifies their investment. Every agent is recalculating what relegation would do to a client's endorsement portfolio. Every player outside the elite bubble is staring at a future where one bad season sends them tumbling out of golf's upper class. Step back and the picture sharpens into something bigger than one exchange between two powerful men. The PGA Tour is gambling its entire future on the belief that fans want golf packaged like the NFL, with clear hierarchies, massive purses, big market venues, and ruthless stakes every single week. The architect of that vision spent 2 decades proving the formula works in football. Standing across from him is a 6-time major champion arguing that golf's value was never only about money, and that some of the sport's most precious assets are century-old championships that will suffocate inside a spreadsheet. Neither man is villainous here, which is exactly why this conflict refuses to die. Rolapp genuinely answered the question he was asked. McIlroy genuinely believes the most important question remains unanswered. Both things are true at once, and professional golf now lives inside that contradiction. The next flashpoint is already circled on the calendar. When the tier assignments drop in early 2027, we will learn the fate of the Canadian Open, the Scottish Open, and every other tournament caught in the middle. If the National Opens land in the second division, expect McIlroy to respond with something far stronger than a warning, and expect the fragile piece between the star and the suit to shatter completely. Until that day, the huge trouble brewing inside the PGA Tour is not a rumor and not a fabrication. It is a slow-motion collision between tradition and television money, and 47 tournaments are strapped in for the ride. If this breakdown gave you the full story the highlight reel skipped, do us one favor before you go. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and drop your verdict in the comments below. Is Rolapp building the future golf needs, or is Rory the last man defending what makes this sport worth watching? We read every single comment, and the best takes shape our next video. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss the moment this war reignites, because trust us, it will. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.